What's up, YouTube? So I'm doing a little bit of an impromptu video. I really hope the wind is not crazy and you guys can even hear what I'm saying, because I'm kind of biking against it. But yeah, I wanted to make a video for you guys, just kind of telling you some of the differences between Connecticut and Florida. Now, mind you, I did live in Tampa back in 2012 to 2014. I now live in Jacksonville, and we've been here for over a month. So it's been a long time since I lived here, but I also now live in a little bit of a different area. So I'm just gonna explain to you guys, as best as I can think, what some of the differences are. So here we go. The number one difference I'd notice that is definitely positive is the verbiage used by people here. I shouldn't even say verbiage, the manners that people have here. So I would say 90% of the time, you're gonna find people saying yes, ma'am, or yes, sir. And obviously the opposite, no, ma'am, no, sir. People are very big here on using, I don't know if that counts as a pronoun. I don't even want to use that, but people are very big here on showing respect, and that's one of the ways they do it, right? Definitely like a southern, just a respect thing. I've always been like that. I've been raised old school, and I was taught that that was the way you show respect, especially to elders, but I use it no matter the age. I just think it's an appropriate thing to use. So yeah, that's really, really big here, and my heart warms up so much when I hear that. You don't even know, like, okay, there's that. The other positive is that people here greet you. Hi! People here greet you, and totally the opposite of Connecticut. Connecticut, it's almost seen as weird or rude, or people are just confused. Like if you say good morning to them, they kind of look at you like, what do you want? Like, you know, it's not everyone, but the majority don't want to talk to you. Don't want to acknowledge that you're there. It's kind of like a New York thing, like mind your own business, right? So here, the people are very quick to greet you. I've noticed a huge difference at the gym. So I'll just give you an example. So at the gym in Connecticut, we have the sauna. We have the sauna here at the particular gym I go to. In Connecticut, when people walk in the sauna, no words are said. It's kind of understood that when you go in the sauna, like, you need to be quiet. People just want to sit in there and relax, and just don't talk to people unless you're talked to. Well, here, anytime somebody walks in the sauna, there's a few that won't say anything, but mostly everybody, when they walk in, they'll acknowledge, no matter how many people are in the sauna, you know, whether it's one person or five, you know, good morning, everybody. Good morning, ladies. How are you? You know, it's just an acknowledgement of you being there and making sure that all is well. And a lot of people here like to hold conversations, especially in the gym, whereas in Connecticut, it's very much if I don't know you, we don't have much to be talking about. Now, like I said, that's not everybody, but I don't think that really even needs to be said. That's kind of common knowledge. Like, it's not steadfast, but the majority, that's the type of attitude you're going to get hit with in Connecticut. Whereas here, it's more rude if you don't acknowledge somebody and don't hold a conversation, right? Like, you know, I met a lady, she just started chatting with me, came in the sauna and, like, started chatting with me, telling me her life story, you know, like, filling me in on what's going in the gym, and, like, inviting me to a class and stuff like that. And, yeah, we actually had a couple we met, like, at the beach, take us out to dinner. You know, just totally different vibe than you're going to get in Connecticut, you know, and those type of people in Connecticut are going to be few and far between. You know, it's a very not trusting area, and sometimes rightfully so. But yeah, that's a huge difference here. People are more friendly and definitely like to greet you. If I have to give one negative in the whole video, I guess I'll give it now. One negative for me, and this is different for everybody. Some people like crowds, some people don't. I'm not a huge fan of crowds. I'd rather kind of be secluded and go to crowds when I feel like it. I don't like being crowded all the time. The particular area I live in Jacksonville, is not it's not crowded, but it's more populated than what I'm used to in Connecticut. We'll just put it that way. Tampa was super crowded. Jacksonville, at least the area that I'm in, is not crowded. It's just populated. But I have not found a spot where I can go and kind of just be in nature and be by myself. That for me is a negative, because that's usually the time I go spend with God. I like to go outside and in a beautiful area. I like to be in a beautiful area, even the beach, where I can just be alone with God and, pray and whatever. Here, I just haven't found that area. That's not to say it doesn't exist. It's just harder to find. Whereas in Connecticut, I mean, granted, I lived there my whole life, but it's very easy there to find a place that's secluded. Whereas here, it's kind of people everywhere you go. So that's going to be really my only negative. Another positive here is the vicinity of schools and stores and places that you need. So in Connecticut, you pretty much always have to travel at least 20 minutes, depending on where you're at. But I would say generally, you're going to be traveling 20 minutes to get to some store that you want. You might have a couple near your house, but you always have to supplement and go at least 20 minutes out to find, the rest of the stores that you need, whether it's Costco or Walmart or whatever. Here, at least in my area, these stores are typically within a 5, max 10-minute drive. And yeah, I could leave my house and be on foot and make it to half the stores I need in 10 minutes on foot. On bike, 5 minutes. In a car, 2 minutes, depending on your mode of transportation, obviously. But that's definitely a plus here, is that in Florida, and this is the same way over in Tampa, in Florida, your communities are very tight-knit, meaning, maybe that's not the word I want to use, but each community, each neighborhood pretty much has its own set of schools and stores and everything, whereas in Connecticut, you have one school for the whole city or town, so here you really don't have to travel probably more than 5 to 7 minutes for a school near you, no matter where you live. That's just the beauty of it. And even where we live, so Florida, this is another positive, but kind of mixed in with that one. In Florida, you get the choice of schools. So, sorry, I'm a little out of breath because I'm wearing a thing. I forgot what it's called, but it's super tight. Anyway, it's for my swelling, but side note. But yeah, in Florida, you get the choice of schools. So unlike Connecticut, where you have to go to your district school, you can get even in trouble with the law if you send your child to a school outside your district. Whereas here, you can choose exactly where you want your child to go to school, no matter how far it is from your house. You just have to drive them. The bus will pick you up if it's in your district. If it's not, you just have to drive them to school. So the beauty is that your child can stay in the same school even if you move, a town or 2 towns over. You won't find that in Connecticut. Not a thing. So yeah. So anyway, like I was saying, you could choose a school 5 minutes from your house, or if you were really interested in a different school, you can drive your child to school every day, and it's not a big deal. Another positive here along the lines of schools is that the public school is free, we know that, but they do have charter schools and some Christian schools that are free, and they actually pay you if you apply for a grant here. They'll actually pay you to homeschool your child. They help with some of the different bills that you have. It's a set amount each year. Like I said, you have to apply. As far as my understanding goes, most everyone gets it, but I haven't applied yet, so I can't say that for sure, because it's not income based. That's why I say that. So that's another bonus, especially for homeschoolers. I guess if there was a negative, you could add this in there too. Connecticut was pretty free for homeschooling. That's subject to possibly change. God forbid. I pray it stays the same in Jesus' name. But anyway, after they just found that guy who had been locked up, even though that has nothing to do with homeschooling, but whatever. That's neither here nor there. Florida for homeschooling, They require one of three things. Either you get your child yearly tested, and you have to send the superintendent the test results for state tests, or you have to have somebody review your child's profile. A teacher has to be a teacher, certified teacher in Florida. They have to review your child's portfolio and then send their findings into the superintendent. Or, if I'm not mistaken, you have to meet with the superintendent and go over your portfolio with them. So, and you also have to send in, within 30 days of starting your homeschooling, you have to send into your superintendent a intent to start homeschooling. So that's a lot more work than Connecticut. But you have freedom here in terms of they don't require you to teach your child a certain amount of days, and you don't have to teach them you're not set to what you have to teach them. Whereas Connecticut, you pretty much have freedom homeschooling, but they do require that you teach them the same things that they would learn in the school. So same subjects, I should say. So that's a positive and a negative wrapped in one. I'm just trying to fill you guys in with everything I know. Another positive, or another thing that's different here, is the homes and the amenities that come with the homes or apartments wherever you live. Now, pricing wise, I would say it's definitely better here. You're going to get more bang for your buck. In Connecticut, where you'd be paying about $1,000 a month per bedroom with almost no amenities, or probably not the best amenities, here you're going to be paying less depending on where you live. Of course, that's subject to anywhere. But you're going to find you're going to be in a nicer neighborhood for the same amount of money. You're going to have probably an extra bedroom, and usually your apartment is going to come with washer and dryer, a pool, possibly a workout room, and maybe a dog park or a park for the kids to play with. You're just going to get a lot more for less money, and probably, like I said, in a better location, depending on what your budget is. Whew, I'm trying to breathe and going uphill too. What else is positive here, or different, I should say? Just overall, the people are so much more amicable. I just found there's a lot of Jesus lovers here, which is always a positive. There's, everywhere I go, and this could be God too, but everywhere I go here, I see a Jesus sign. There's a church, pretty much on every single block. And it just feels so good to be in a land where more people love Jesus. And, I think it shows definitely in the attitude around here. I notice I can talk to people more here about God. I can openly talk about God without feeling like I'm going to get snarked at or get a dirty look or, have somebody say something wild. It just doesn't happen here. Most people say amen and are super happy. So that's another positive, or something different in living here. But yeah, the people are just super nice, super welcoming. People are more open to being helpful here. And again, I'll say it again, depends on where you are. Some areas are rougher than others. We've been blessed to be in a nicer area, so praise God for that. Yeah, something else different about here is the beach. So in Connecticut, where the beach is pretty much freezing all year round, even in August, it's still hard to swim. Kids are resilient, they'll swim in anything. But for me, as an older adult with hurting bones and muscles, just wasn't comfortable for me to swim up there even in August, even on a 90-degree day. Here, we got here when did we get here? The beginning of April. And yeah, pretty much 80 degrees every day. Could swim as soon as we got here. The water is super warm, super wavy. It's more clear here than Connecticut, whereas Connecticut, you basically get like a muddy water no matter where you go. Here, even though Jacksonville isn't as clear as Clearwater, obviously, it's called that for a reason, the waters are still decently clear. and beautiful and super salty. I do feel that's different is I feel like the water is way more salty here, and that could just be Jacksonville. I don't really remember Clearwater being that salty, but at least in Jacksonville, the water is super salty. I mean, to the point where, you know, you swim in it for like a half an hour and you're like, man, this is, I don't want to say overkill because I love salt. But, you know, if you're not a fan of super salty, that could be an issue because it's really strong. I personally love it and it helps me in every way. So that's not an issue. What else can I give you guys? Okay, this is something that's different that I love. The structure of the homes, the designs and builds of the homes are different. So in Connecticut, I'll start with apartments because I'm living in a townhouse, but it's an apartment, right? We rent it. So we live in a townhouse. What I've noticed, we went on vacation when we were still in Connecticut. We came on vacation and we stayed in an Airbnb, which was in a townhouse in Daytona, which is only an hour and a half from here. Both townhomes, mine and the townhouse in Daytona, they're almost soundproof. I mean, I can't hear my neighbors at all. My neighbor will be blasting music and I can hear the bumps through the wall, but it's not an annoying, oh my gosh, my neighbors are playing music, and literally all I can hear is the bass through the wall, but it's not even loud, you know, like I can tell he's bumping it in his house, but it's not obnoxious. I never hear my neighbors talk. I haven't heard my neighbors say one word. It's two dudes over there. I have not heard my neighbors say one word. When people are upstairs in this townhouse, you know, somebody will be upstairs, you know, once in a while I'll hear a creak on the floor, but it's very light, and, you know, it's even hard to hear if I'm yelling, you know, my husband or my son's name upstairs. It's hard for them to even hear me sometimes. I got to go up the stairs to talk to them. So, you know, that is totally different. Connecticut, I've lived in, I don't even know how many different apartments. Got to be like 6 different apartments in Connecticut, and each one of them, paper thin walls. You can hear everything. Our last apartment, God blessed us to move here because you could have a conversation with the neighbors through the wall. I mean, I heard stuff I never wanted to hear. You know, I just being honest, like it was just too, what's the word? Anyway, you could just hear way too much. So Connecticut, pretty much anywhere you live in an apartment, you're going to hear a lot. Homes wise, I've lived in 2 different homes. I could say I've lived in 3. I've lived in 3 different homes in Connecticut, and the homes aren't super soundproof. The homes are better, obviously, than an apartment. They're going to spend more money to make them better, but it's just something in the floors. Like in Connecticut, the floors, you step on them, they don't feel solid. It's almost like you can feel what they're made of. And a lot of homes in Connecticut are made of wood, so you can feel like the wood planks underneath. It just doesn't feel stable, I guess is the word. Here, like, I don't know what they make the floors out of, but it just feels like maybe concrete. I don't even know. It just feels like walking on concrete. Like the floor ain't going nowhere. They're built very nice. So a huge positive for me is soundproofness, if that's a word. That's like one of the top things on my list for looking for a home, because, you know, we have a young son. We have a 7-year-old. I have a 14-year-old, and my 7-year-old will tear a place up. I mean, that kid is constantly going. And so one of my fears is annoying my neighbors and disrupting them, because I know how I am. Even I get, sensory overload, and I need to go somewhere to decompress and like chill out for real. And just even sometimes even having the volume on 1 on my TV will be too much for me. So I never want to disrupt my neighbors and have them hear me at all. So definitely a huge plus, especially if you're going to be renting in Florida, is that, you know, I can't speak for everywhere, but I have lived in other apartments in Florida, at least 2 other ones, and I don't remember having sound be an issue, because it was a long time ago, but I don't remember from then having sound be an issue. So definitely, especially townhomes, are better sound wise. What else? I will say they might be changing the way they do renting here, because it could be a positive or a negative. For me, it was a negative, I guess. I guess I'm finding more negatives than I thought I did, but the paperwork to move in here was wild, dude. The amount of pages, there had to be like 20 plus pages for our renter's agreement. And there was so many stuff we signed off on that I'm like, this is wild. Like, I never heard of this much things in a renter's agreement. It was crazy. Personally, in Connecticut, the few places I've rented have been like maybe 5 pages. Maybe they were more, but I can't ever remember it being that many things, like such specific details, like down to the law, like totally different. But it can be a good thing because it protects you too from, a lot of it will protect you from having bad neighbors, honestly. So, like I said, it can be good or bad. I hate paperwork, so for me it was like, but now that I live here, I'm like, okay, like I see how that can prevent, having bad neighbors around you. So that's cool. Got a lot of stuff like, you have to make sure your apartment's maintained. You can't be leaving trash outside, blah, 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 whatever. There was that. I'm trying to think what else. Oh, kid friendly. This gotta be, if you have kids, this gotta be like number 1 on your list. This place is so kid friendly. Since we moved in, and I know this does still happen some places up north in Connecticut, this is more rare now. When we were kids, we used to ride our bikes down the street, and the neighborhood kids would hang out and have fun. We live in dangerous times now, so I'm all for being a helicopter mom. But here, even the first day we went to the park, my son made friends, and they're all outside. They ride their bikes almost every day, and hang out and be kids outside. They're not, a few have phones and whatever, but for the most part, they're outside being kids. Riding their bikes and making friends, and not in the house on computers or whatever. It's just great to see a childhood memory happen for my son that I thought was extinct. I didn't think kids went outside and rode their bikes with neighborhood kids anymore. Like the kids here, they knock on our door. They knock on our door for my son to come outside. That is amazing. I never thought, and that's not every neighborhood, I know. But for us, at least where we moved, I think the weather also has a big thing to do with it, because it is always nice outside, whereas Connecticut, most of the time it's freezing, and the only place I really see people go is like the park, but even then, kids don't really want to play, and yeah, so that's different. But at this point, I think I'm rambling, but I would say the stores are nicer here. There's definitely more stores than Connecticut. You're definitely going to find more high-class stores, or is that the word I'm looking for? I don't know. More expensive stores, more expensive car dealerships. Like in Connecticut, I don't think I ever saw a Jaguar dealership. Maybe out in like the richer areas like Avon, but I can't ever remember seeing one. So like, like a Jaguar, that's just an example, or even like a Tesla. Connecticut is stepping up with that, like the Tesla thing, because that's kind of everywhere now, but it's not like here, there's more new construction here, whereas in Connecticut, oh, that sucks. Whereas in Connecticut, most everything's old. If you do get a new construction, it's going to be super expensive, not affordable, very little space. So that's a huge difference here. I'm actually I'm biking through new construction now, but it's so much more affordable here. But yeah, I'm off on another side note, but yeah, you're going to get nicer stores, more expensive stores clustered together. In Connecticut, yes, we do have the shopping malls, and they'll have a few stores together, but you really have to go to like an outlet to find, a lot of the stores you want together. Whereas here, they kind of like towns, they cluster a lot of the stores that people want, together. Like we went, we decided to go to Buc-ee's the other day. If you've never heard of Buc-ee's, you got to hear of it. It's a super huge, famous gas station. They have a few on 95 when you come south, but it's huge. The gas station, they have, they got to have like 30 gas pumps, and, they make food and stuff inside, really good barbecue sandwiches. They got a bakery, everything. So, Anyway, we decided to go to Buc-ee's the other day, and so we didn't know it until we got there, but Buc-ee's was right next to Costco, and it was also next to Bass Pro Shops. So we hit, well, we actually skipped Costco because it was busy, but we were going to hit all three. We ended up hitting 2 out of 3. But it just goes to show you that, they'll sandwich stores here together that they know people are going to want, and that makes sense, So that made sense to us that they would have those there together. So that was cool. But yeah, I think I've said a lot. I don't know how many points I gave you guys, but these are just some really huge, I think, are like the most important things for people to know about. And as a bonus, as a bonus, a car's coming, I'll add in fishing. We did end up paying for a fishing license that covers pretty much every type of fishing you could want. A big thing for me was I wanted to do lobster fishing, so we added that to our fishing licenses. But when we met a guy when we went fishing, he actually said, with your Florida ID, you get, I forgot what they called it, but it's a mix of fresh and, I forgot what it's called, shoreline fishing, sorry, my brain's not working. You get shoreline fishing for free, so kind of where we would fish anyway, as long as you're not on a boat, would pretty much be free. But we plan on doing some pretty big things fishing-wise that I'd just rather be safe than sorry, number one. But number two, you'd probably need a fishing license for. So, but anyway, I saw a boat going to dock, and I was like, man, how much are they charging for that? Because, in Connecticut, where this guy was docking his boat, would have been like easily $1 million. And the guy was like, he's not paying nothing. You don't got to pay to dock there. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, you don't got to pay for that here. He was like, Florida doesn't charge you for a lot. So I was like, wow. That's not to say you don't pay to dock some places, but at least where we were, you would have assumed this area was beautiful. You would have easily assumed it would be $1 million, but no, for free. So, sorry, Connecticut, Florida, has a lot more benefits for people in terms of fishing and just financially. It's just a better place to live. You're going to get more bang for your buck. You're going to get more beauty for your buck. Whereas if you were to live in Connecticut, you're just going to be paying to live in just a really not nice area, at least on the income that we currently have, So yeah, all right. I love you guys, and I'll see y'all later. Peace.